This might be one of the best value lenses for crop sensor cameras. It is small, lightweight, sharp, and has some great depth. Today we'll be putting it to the test and talking about the pros and the cons, all to find out if it's the right lens for you. So I'm using this lens right now to film this video. As you guys can see, it's nice and sharp, it's got a lot of detail, and it still has that depth that looks really good. And if I didn't point out that this was a crop sensor camera and lens, you probably would just assume that it's full frame because that's just how good it looks. But let's dive a little bit deeper, starting with the form factor. At first glance, you'll see just how small this lens is. It's really tiny, and that makes it great to pack and to bring with you. I'm a big fan of smaller gear. I like to be able to easily bring stuff with me and to be more discreet when I'm out shooting. And the first thing you'll notice if you pick this lens up is how lightweight it is, which is so useful for vlogging. It's really annoying to have, a big vlogging setup because your arm will get super tired, but using a lens like this on a crop sensor camera really helps cut down on the weight and makes this more enjoyable to use. This lens has a custom button, which is super useful when you pair it with a Sony camera because it will allow you to assign a ton of different things to this button. What I've been using it for is to engage clear image zoom, so I can simply punch in that button and it will engage clear image zoom so I can get a little extra reach out of the lens, making it a little more versatile. The lens has a 55mm thread on the front so that you can put on different filters, but it does not have an aperture ring. I wish it did because, I really enjoy that on some of my other lenses, just for multiple reasons. Being able to visually see what my aperture is at a quick glance, being able to adjust it without having to go into the menus, but it's still really easy to assign different dials or buttons on your camera to be able to change that quickly. All right, so we've talked about the form factor. Now let's talk about the image quality. This is a prime lens, so there is no zoom option. You basically just have to zoom with your feet. But because it's a prime lens, it allows for a faster aperture and it's very sharp as well. Let's talk about the aperture. It's 1.8, and this is really what is allowing for that nice depth in your shots. And I really like this. Not only does it allow for more depth, but it also allows more light to get into the sensor, so it's going to help out in low light situations. So if you're watching this video and hearing me say things like 1.8 and aperture and you just don't understand what any of that means, that's okay. That's actually why I've put together my free course, supersimplecamerasettings.com. Even if you're a beginner, it will help you master your camera settings. You'll learn things like resolution, ISO, shutter speed, aperture, and white balance. This course is completely free and it's been designed to help you go from auto to manual in minutes. You can check it out at supersimplecamerasettings.com. This is an 11mm lens, so it is super wide, but remember that is in crop sensor measurements. When you switch it to full frame, it's more like a 16mm equivalent. And that 16mm range is really handy for vlogging because you'll be able to place yourself in the frame and really immerse the viewer into your environment. Or you can also bring in a friend to the scene very easily, even multiple people, which just makes it really useful for, talking to camera on the go and really creating content in that way.
But this is why this lens is so good, because you can just fit more than one person into the shot. So you and all of your friends can have a great time vlogging.
That is wide.
Yeah.
That is wide. I like it.
Yeah.
Because it's so wide, it's also great for smaller spaces. So if you're in a smaller room or you're just trying to, let more into the frame, this lens is going to be super useful for those times. Another really useful feature about this lens is the minimum focus distance. Because you can get so close with this lens, it really does make it feel more versatile. And me personally, I really love wide angle lenses. I think it's because of my days doing wedding films where it's more documentary style work. There's just something about the wide angle that allows you to capture everything that's going on. You can always crop into stuff later or punch in, but if you're using too tight of a lens, you're just gonna miss out on things that are going on. And so I've really come to enjoy the wide angle lens, and I personally just leave this on the camera most of the time. It's really easy because you can reach around and still adjust everything on the camera, adjust your settings, dial stuff in. If you're using something that's more like a 35mm or a 50mm, you have to back up quite a bit further and then you can't reach it, and it's a lot of back and forth. So there's just something really fast and easy about having a nice wide angle lens when it comes to creating content. So we've talked about the form factor and we've talked about the image quality, but now I want to give you just some of my final thoughts on this lens. So because of the nature of my work, I'll tend to shoot on a wide variety of cameras. I shoot on smartphones, action cameras, prop sensor, and full frame. And I enjoy all of them for different reasons. But for a little while, I've been trying to just lean into crop sensor and really just see how is it? How does it compare? Do I miss full frame? Do I not? And I'll say pairing this lens with the Sony a6700 has been a really good setup. Does it quite replace full frame? I would say for some people yes, for some people no. I think you could totally use this lens on a crop sensor camera and be super happy with the results. There's still going to be times if you're a professional and you are doing different types of work, that full frame is just going to get you what you want, especially in like low light conditions. But because this lens is 1.8, it does still do a great job. It just kind of gives you that full frame look on a budget. The price of this lens comes in at around $550, which honestly for the quality that you're getting with this lens is really awesome. Overall, I'm a big fan of it.
So I figured this would be sort of a cool way to end out the video with some final thoughts while I'm using this lens, and one of the ways that I purchased the lens to be used, which is a vlog lens. I really do think it just has a lot of nice depth and sharpness and makes your crop sensor lens look a little bit more full frame. Even right now, it's pretty dark outside, the sun's setting, and you know, it's pretty shaded, but the image still looks really good. Personally, I'm a really big fan of minimal. I'm a big fan of, you know, traveling lighter and doing more with less. And so I really like the idea of embracing the smaller setup and, you know, just trying to make the most of what this lens can do. Because ultimately, you know, it's more about the creator using the gear than the gear itself. All in all, I'm really happy with the setup, and I think that it's going to be really useful for a lot of people if you're in the market for a really powerful and small APS-C lens.
Throughout this video, you've heard me talking about the Sony a6700, which I think is the perfect camera to pair with this lens. To learn more about it, you can watch this video here. I've placed links in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay creative. Peace.